Steph Curry just put on an MVP-esque performance with 56 points. Should the Warriors be considered title contenders? Because we might need to consider them title contenders. It's Locked On NBA Game Night. Let's go.
When that final buzzer rings, you know it's time for Locked On NBA Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. It's the true NBA fans' one stop for all the action. Every game, every night. It's Locked On NBA Game Night. Tipping off now.
Welcome to another edition of Locked On NBA Game Night. Every game, every night. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. On Fridays, I'm your co-host, Jake Madison, at NOLA Jake on Twitter, and the host of the Locked On Pelicans podcast.
And I'm John Karalis, at John_Karalis on Twitter, and host of the Locked On Celtics podcast.
And of course, thank you for making it Locked On NBA Game Night your first listen. Today and every day, we are here 7 days a week covering every single game around the association here. And it was a lot of fun with 5 games on Thursday night. Today's episode of Locked On NBA Game Night is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Joe, this is actually pretty fun with 5 games. Like 4 of them kind of like there's storylines everywhere in this one.
Storylines aplenty, lots of words to be said. Some of them will be scathing because there's some real interesting, fun, and infuriating stuff that happened in the NBA on Thursday night.
What wasn't infuriating, though, was Steph Curry with a vintage performance, 56
Depends on your
points.
Perspective.
There you go. True.
I'm sure people
we'll play the
Locked
Locked On Mavs clip here. Warriors win 121-115 over the Orlando Magic. Let's go to Locked On Warriors for more on this one.
Steph Curry just got MVP chance across the country. In Orlando, they take down the Magic 121-115. And quite frankly, this was a game that the Magic should have won. Based on the numbers, they would have beaten just about any team in the NBA tonight. They shot at 50% from the floor, 40% from deep. Paolo Banchero had 41 points in the game. I mean, the Magic started off 15 of 18 from the floor, 4 of 6 from 3. Yet, at halftime, when they led the Golden State Warriors by 14, I think all Warriors fans felt very, very good. And it's because Steph Curry had that look in his eye. Drilled a deep half-court shot right before halftime to bring it to 14. And from there, the brilliance was just getting started. Curry, 56 points in the game. Why bury the lead? A season high. He had 12 three-pointers in the game, 1 short of his career-high 13, 2 short of Klay Thompson's NBA record, 14 in the game. This was just an unreal basketball game that, quite frankly, you kept forgetting as a Warriors supporter down the stretch that, hey, they had a ball game to win because it was just the Steph show. It was the ball in Steph's hands, and until the doubles came, he was making a play every single time. Steph Curry, what a magical moment in his career. He finishes 16 of 25, 12 of 19 from 3, hits all 12 of his free throws, 56 points, and a 6-point win. Oh, and by the way, that's 5 straight W's.
All right, let's go get the Magic perspective, too. Then let's talk about Steph Curry because we got to talk about Steph Curry.
This is Philip Rossman-Reich, the host of Locked On Magic here at the Kia Center. The Orlando Magic fall to the Golden State Warriors, and really it was the Steph Curry show with 56 points, 12 three-pointers made. It's tough to overcome that. He scored 21 of them in the third quarter. I think he had 6 or 7 threes in that quarter alone to flip a 14-point Magic lead into a 12-point Warriors lead. And it's hard to overcome that, especially with the shortcomings that this Magic team have. But this game was about the response that Orlando needed to have. And the question that I have coming out of this game is whether the Magic have another response like this. You know, Franz Wagner just told me in the locker room that the Magic probably played one of their better first halves of the season. They came out, they moved the ball, they stepped into shots confidently, they played the way that we've always envisioned this team playing, and they built as much of as a 17-point lead. In fact, Stephen Curry hit a half-court shot before halftime to make it a 14-point halftime lead. That is exactly what the Magic were hoping for, to kind of blunt the impact that Steph Curry can have by shutting everyone else out and playing great basketball. But in the end, there's just too many offensive walls. There's just too many moments where the Magic can't quite get themselves back on the same page, and that's what costs you against quality teams, and the Magic right now are struggling to beat these quality teams. The Magic responded the way they needed to after the 40-point loss on Tuesday. They still did not get the win, and the question now becomes, can they respond again the right way Sunday? when they face the Toronto Raptors.
They're like birds in there or something. It sounded like
there's like a baby crying. There's like just sadness in Orlando.
Look, when Steph Curry drops 56 on you on 16 to 25 shooting, he made 12 threes in this one. John, real or fake after this? And we heard Charlie say it, 5 straight wins for the Golden State Warriors with Jimmy Butler in tow now. Real or fake? The Golden State Warriors are title contenders all of a sudden.
Fake. Come on. That's still, first of all, Jimmy Butler did nothing in this game. Nothing in this game. Look, it's a nice run for the Golden State Warriors. They are going to be at best the 6th seed. I still don't think, like Steph is capable, obviously, of big monster games. But I just still don't think that they're capable of putting games like this together over a 7-game series 4 times to get themselves into title contention. You're going to have to get past some really good teams to consider yourself a contender. This was, and I mean no disrespect here, but this was the Orlando Magic, who are struggling, mediocre ever since guys went down with all those injuries and the wave of oblique injuries happened in Orlando. It's just been a promising season has fallen apart. And it still was a struggle, by the way. It still was a struggle to beat them, even with Steph scoring 56. So fake on the title contender talk.
Yeah, I think it's fake too. They have the 4th best odds to win the West per FanDuel. They're only behind, it goes OKC, who's the heavy favorite here, then Denver, then LA, then the Golden State Warriors at plus 1100, which isn't terrible odds because we've seen them go on these kind of runs in the postseason before their last title kind of came. I don't want to say unexpectedly, but a little bit unexpectedly. So I think there's some precedent for it. But, this was a game that, as you said, they should have lost, and it took a heroic Steph Curry game to beat them. Like, the Orlando Magic played pretty well in this one with Banchero going off and looking like his old self from earlier on in the year. If you get 45 from Curry, which would have been an incredible performance, you probably lose. And if you need to rely on Curry scoring 50 or more, that's going to be a big part of the problem. You also had a really good game from Quentin Post in this one off the bench with 18 points. He had a plus minus of plus 22.
Yeah.
I don't know how often you're going to see that kind of performance from someone that probably a lot of people have never heard of before. So unless you're really certain you can rely on him, there's still kind of some of the same issues where they're a good team. They are not a great team. They are not a title contending team, in my opinion.
That's right. And look, Orlando also shot themselves in the foot a little bit here. 18 turnovers for 20 points. That's part of why they allowed a 40-21 third quarter by the Warriors. And to correct Phil, Curry had 22 in the third quarter to outscore Orlando all by himself. But the turnovers were a real issue. A lot of them were sloppiness and not necessarily great Warriors defense. So, Orlando got, great performance from Banchero, got a good game from Franz Wagner, didn't get much from anybody else, and they turned the ball over a ton. So, Orlando had it within them to win this game despite Steph's heroics. But hey, the story of this is Steph Curry. Can I throw a quick stat at you here?
Yeah, let's hear it.
Steph Curry, February 27th, it might average more points on any date than anybody. He had 56 in this one. In 2016, on February 27th, he had a 46-point game. And on 2013, in February 27th, he had a 54-point game. Something about February 27th. If Steph Curry is ever playing on a February 27th, bet the over.
Yeah, hammer the overs, apparently. That's an incredible stat. That's a great one here. The insight that Locked On NBA Game Night provides you that you can't get anywhere else. All right, let's move on over to the Dallas Mavericks beating the Charlotte Hornets 103-96. Let's go to Nick Angstadt and Locked On Mavs for more.
Sometimes you can win a game and still lose. The Dallas Mavericks beat the Charlotte Hornets, who were down a bunch of players. Mavericks down a bunch of players too, but this Charlotte Hornets team had just lost 4 games by 30 points or more. It was absolutely a brutal Hornets team coming in, and the Mavericks tie game with 6 minutes left in this one. Should never have gotten there, but Kyrie Irving takes over, hits a bunch of clutch shots in the fourth quarter, gets him over the hump, gets them to a win, closes it down, and Moses Brown was actually really, really good in this game. Finished the game with 20 points, 11 boards, 3 steals, and 2 blocks, and actually closed the game too. It's too bad he's on the last day of his 10-day. The Mavs are not able to sign him again. They've run out of money. Happens to all of us, doesn't it? But the Mavs are now going to be without a center. They have Dwight Powell, but other than that, we're waiting on an update for the rest of their centers to come back. And in this one, they could have used somebody else, but they get a win. You'll take it. It's a W in the win column, but not a really encouraging one. The Mavs offense was absolutely terrible in this one. You got some help from Klay Thompson as well, but if Kyrie wasn't making something happen, or if the Mavs weren't dishing to Moses Brown right under the rim, nothing else was happening, and they got to have something else happening.
There you go. So we'll talk more about the other games in the NBA here, and that's going to be the Denver Nuggets not winning, the Lakers getting a big win over the Minnesota Timberwolves. That's all coming up here next on Locked On NBA Game Night. Today's episode of Locked On NBA Game Night is brought to you by FanDuel. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip or you want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback like the Timberwolves almost pulled off, you can stay in on the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets to a same-game parlay. I love the live betting feature because it keeps every moment of the game exciting. After Anthony Edwards was ejected, you would have gotten great odds on the Timberwolves. They almost pulled it off, so you never feel like you missed your chance to make it happen. Plus, the app is super easy to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. And thank you for making Locked On NBA Game Night your first listen today and every day. We are here Monday through Sunday covering every single game across the association. This season, we are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And don't forget, we got a newsletter for your favorite teams, not just podcasts, but newsletters as well. You can subscribe to them over at lockedondaily.com. Just search for your favorite team. Click that subscribe button, put in your email, and it's going to be in your inbox. One stop for ultimate team and league coverage. So, John, let's keep bouncing around. The Lakers kind of making a sweat in a win 111-102 over the Minnesota Timberwolves after Anthony Edwards got ejected. We'll talk about him, but let's go over to Locked On Lakers to start here.
This is Andy Kamenetsky, co-host of the Locked On Lakers podcast, and the Lakers get a 111-102 win over the Timberwolves in LA. Not a pretty win, not a particularly pretty game. Anthony Edwards was ejected. Rui Hachimura left the game with a knee strain. The Lakers missed 14 free throws. Luka Doncic, 6 of 20 from the field, 1 of 9 from behind the arc. The Lakers 27% from behind the arc as a team, but they only turned the ball over 12 times. They won the rebounding battle. Austin Reeves put up 23 points and did actually make his free throws. And LeBron James, 33 points, 17 rebounds, 5 on the offensive glass, 6 assists. Dude is just making it happen at 40. It's unreal at times. For more Lakers coverage, make sure you are watching Locked On Lakers on YouTube and listening wherever you get your podcasts.
Yeah, that LeBron dude, still good, huh?
Still good. It's not even the only time he's had 17 rebounds this season. I think it's the second time he's had 17 rebounds this season. He's just continues to be pretty good.
Yes. Good way to put it. There are some injury concerns for the Lakers in this one. You saw I'm completely blanking. Rui Hachimura leave the game, not return. Jackson Hayes left in this one late, so the thin front court is already a little bit thinner. LeBron James was also holding his hamstring late in this one, but he did finish out the game. The biggest part of this story might be the ejection for Anthony Edwards. I think you might have some thoughts here.
So he's right on the cusp of 16 technical fouls, which is the automatic 1-game suspension.
No, he got it. That was his. This one, he picked it up.
I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's right.
Gotcha.
So he came in right on the cusp.
Got it.
Of it. And here the Minnesota Timberwolves fighting to get out of the play-in, fighting to try to salvage what has been a disappointing season. People have seen them as, came into the season looking at them as a competition for the top seed, and it hasn't gone that way. And throughout the season, Anthony Edwards has continued to show some real immaturity, which is, fine. He is 22 years old. So he's not supposed to be mature in a general sense, but we expect these guys to be more mature in as pro athletes. He cost his team with the 2 techs, even if you say they were questionable. Okay, so he gets the 2 techs, which is bad. Then he throws the ball out of bounds. He just throws the ball into the crowd. And so he gets ejected from a game that they had a chance to win. He is now suspended for a game. They need him, and he's not going to be there. And then he's going to get the additional fine for throwing the ball into the stands, and who knows what else, because he has a history of just not he has a questionable history when it comes to this stuff. So he's building a reputation for himself as somewhat of a hothead, and people like his personality, and he's tells it like it is. And I get that, but there's a balance between having a good personality and having an unchecked personality. And I think right now he is unchecked, and he needs to get he needs to be humbled a little bit somehow and understand how important he is to his team, because he's a really, really good basketball player. He has levels that can still be unlocked, but if his brain is going to hold him back somehow, that's part of why the Timberwolves aren't going to reach their full potential. I believe in him. I believe in him as a player, but mentally, he is nowhere close to where he is physically as a basketball player.
Yeah, he could be one of those guys that's the face of the league or the next guy, and I think you've got to have a little bit of villain in you to kind of be that, right? It's why someone like Tatum comes off as kind of bland to me. He's a superstar level guy that's not thought of like that, but people kind of we're not doing that here.
No,
go to Locked On Celtics for more. I had that question. I do a weekly Q&A at Boston Sports Journal, where I'm a beat writer. And someone asked me that exact same question. Yeah.
Why isn't Tatum the face of the league? And I said, people think he's boring.
I get how good he is. I would start a team around him, but as face of the league, he just doesn't make it.
He doesn't have that je ne sais quoi.
Yeah,
It's
literally
that it factor. Fine, which is fine. If he's on your team, not to devolve this into that, but if he's on your team, is exactly what you want. He doesn't get into trouble. He loves his mom. He loves his son. You want him to marry your daughter. That's the type of guy he is. But when it comes to fans being oh man, I love that guy, they gravitate towards Anthony Edwards because he has that attitude, that swagger.
That's what it is.
And it's fine to be a villain. It's fine to be a villain
but you can't cost your team
hurting
wins.
Your team, right? You're not supposed to be a villain in your own city, which he's not in Minnesota, but he could be if this continues. You're supposed to be the villain because you keep beating other teams, and you do it in a cool WWE way where you're I don't give a damn about your city, and you can talk and have that swag and all of that stuff. That is totally fine. Talk your trash, back it up, but don't hurt your team.
That's the biggest thing. There's a line there, and he definitely went over it because they could have won this game. Let's go over to Locked On Wolves for their perspective here.
The Timberwolves lose the Lakers by 9 on Thursday night as Anthony Edwards is ejected, and he'll be suspended for tomorrow night's game against the Jazz. I'm Ben Beacon, host of the daily Locked On Wolves podcast. And the Wolves trailed by as many as 23 points in this game. They were still down double figures in the third quarter when Anthony Edwards got his second technical. His first was at the end of the first quarter in a bit of a shoving match with former teammate Jared Vanderbilt. A soft technical, if you ask me. Live ball technical, complaining a non-call in the third quarter. Ants ejected. It's his 16th technical of the year. That means he can't play tomorrow night either. He had 18 points on 12 shots in just 26 minutes. The Wolves did come all the way back to within just a possession with about 5 minutes to play, really on the back of TJ Shannon's career-high 25 points on 15 shots in just 29 minutes. But they didn't get enough from key players. Naz Reid had just 3 points on 1 of 10 shooting. They only had, Jay McDaniels didn't get going until the second half. Just not a good offensive showing for Minnesota, and they felt short. Make sure to subscribe to Locked On Wolves for all things Timberwolves.
All right, and let's switch games here. Let's go over to the Bucks beating the Denver Nuggets 121-112. I found this game pretty interesting here because for Denver, Nikola Jokic was Nikola Jokic. 32 points, 14 rebounds, 10 assists. It's what he does. He got like no help from anyone in this one. You had Jamal Murray get 20 points on 20 shots, but that's not going to get it done against the Timberwolves, against a Bucks team that is playing at a much better level. They're defending differently than they did, and that's definitely been a game changer for him. But like the Nuggets gotta find some people for Jokic. It seems like it's a little too late to do something now. You overall worried about them?
Well, a little bit. I still believe in the power of Jokic in a 7-game series. And so this has not been a season where I think, Nuggets fans will be like, yeah, this is totally encouraging. This has been a tough one in a lot of ways, and it may come down to matchups. They're going to need players to play well. They're going to need the supporting cast to step up, no doubt. Worried? No. Concern is, am I playing a semantics game? Maybe, but I'm not full out worried. But like Michael Porter Jr. needs to step up like that. If he can,
he's been
play
shooting
more
real poorly recently.
He's had 4 straight. He had 3 games where he scored 36 and 39 against your Pelicans, and then a 30-point game against Orlando, and then 6, 13, 19, and 12 on just god-awful shooting. It's been a real struggle. He can't be that streaky. You'd like to see some more consistency. If he can be consistent and Jamal Murray can get, be Jamal Murray, then they'll be okay. But you can't have that level of inconsistency around Jokic.
No, I'm mildly concerned about them here. They had that 9-game winning streak that I think has kind of elevated them up a little bit before losing pretty badly to the Lakers. And they didn't beat anyone during that stretch. Like there wasn't like a win in there where you're like, yeah, that's a real good win that they got. Look at them taking down one of those top teams. So I think it's kind of helped elevate their record. Look, you can only play who's in front of you and who you're playing that night. And they took care of business. And there's something to be said for that. But there wasn't like one of those wins where you're like, oh yeah, like that's a good win. And that kind of changes my perception of the team, because you look at the Bucks in this one, I don't think Lillard played amazing. He had good efficiency, but he wasn't like lighting it up. It was basically Giannis and their defense kind of slowing down the Nuggets, who, and you made a really good point about this, them being inconsistent. They were just missing open looks. They missed a ton of open looks. If they could just convert those, this game looks kind of different. I don't know if I trust those guys though. And that's kind of part of it.
They're 13 and 15 against teams 500 or better.
That's great.
That's not good. Like you look at the top teams, Cleveland's 22 and 6, Boston's 20 and 11, Oklahoma City is 21 and 10. That's what a true contender can be like. Even the Houston Rockets are 21 and 15. So the Denver Nuggets being 13 and 15 against good teams is problematic.
That's why I said mildly concerning here. It's Jokic,
sure,
so I'm not going to be like, it's a 10-alarm fire, but like you put it like a 6 or a 7 on the concern scale.
We're in the same place. Yeah. I think maybe I'm like at a 5 or a 6.
Yeah, it's somewhere in there. Like there's reasons to be concerned. All right, coming up next, there's a whole lot of reasons to be concerned about the Phoenix Suns. Let's talk Zion Williamson a little bit here too. That's coming up here next in today's episode of Locked On NBA Game Night. And thank you for making Locked On NBA Game Night your friends.
You
Getting
okay?
over, getting
right?
over being real sick last week here, and clearly got some of it left here. Thank you for making Locked On NBA Game Night your first listen today, and literally every day. There will not be a game played in the NBA this season that does not get covered right here on Locked On NBA Game Night. John, just talk for a second, please.
I want to pass my tea over to you through the screen so you can. Like, there we go.
Almost got it here.
That actually almost worked.
Oh, look cool. For those watching on YouTube. Okay, I'm good now. Thank you for that here. Let's get into the Pelicans beating the Phoenix Suns 124-116. All right, which one do you want to start with? You want to start with the Phoenix Suns, or do you want to start with Zion Williamson?
No, let's start on a high note. Let's see. I know you want to gush about Zion.
Let's do that. Okay, let's start there. We'll get into the Suns because the Suns, oh boy. Zion Williamson.
One of the Suns. We're going to end on that note.
Yeah, there we go. Zion Williamson.
Unless you want me to yell at the Suns while you get
just
yourself
pop
together.
up a lung or something. No, I'm good here. I'm so excited. Zion Williamson, first career triple-double, 27 points, 10 rebounds, 11 assists on 13 of 17 shooting. That is 77% from the field. He was just awesome in this game. 2 blocks, just 2 turnovers. Pelicans are now on a 3-game winning streak, which is actually like the opposite of what they want to be doing here. But Zion has been playing really well. And on Locked On Pelicans the other day, I talked about how he is probably playing the best basketball of his career. And before you and I jumped on here to talk, you talked about how he looks physically different here. So I'm going to throw some numbers out at you here, and I want your opinion on this. And then I'm going to tell you the real reason I'm like kind of back on the Zion Williamson train here. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to look at his per 36-minute numbers over the past now 16 games here, because he is on a minutes restriction. He's been playing 27 minutes or so, played 31 in this one tonight, but we use per 36 minutes because that used to be, it's not really the same now. Well, like the average minutes a starter played, and it's a good comparison tool. So Zion per 36 over the last 16 games right now is at like 33 points per game, 9.5 rebounds, about 6 assists, while shooting like 70% from the field and getting to the line about 10 times per 36 minutes. Basically, the only 2 guys that are in his realm when it comes to per 36-minute stats are Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Giannis. Shai is scoring more points per 36. Giannis has about the same points in rebounding as Zion does. So let's do this. Sus or sustainable, which they like to play on the day show here. Zion's production, sus or sustainable?
Sus, because I don't trust him to stay healthy. And so the production itself is sustainable when he plays. The question is, will he continue to be able to play? And that's the only question that's ever been a question for Zion Williamson. I guess the,
that's the biggest one.
Like, 3-point, can he ever shoot three-pointers or anything like that?
Does he need to when you put up numbers like that?
In this game, he looks lighter, and when you're lighter, the spin moves just look a little faster. Like he looks good. He looks great. And in 31 minutes, triple-double and all of that. And he's a supremely impactful player. Like there's a reason why he came in with the amount of hype that he did. Like that, this was supposed to be a franchise-changing draft pick.
Yeah.
And so I'm not surprised that he's still able to do this. Can he stay on the floor? Can he
That's the biggest question, right?
To keeping his body in a place where he can stay and play.
I mean, that's what it is, right? Like, I think it's sustainable, but I get why people would say no. And it's going to be on him to basically not get hurt the rest of the way. And if he can be healthy the remainder of the season, they'll probably like shut him down for the final week of the season to pick up a couple more losses as they want to tank. So I'm not going to hold that against him, but he does look different. And, I've been covering him his whole career here. The thing that kind of jumps out to me that gets me excited more than anything is he is playing really good defense. Like, he was guarding Kevin Durant about as well as you can guard Kevin Durant in this game. They've been using him more at the 3 instead of the 4 or the 5, which I think has been really smart. He's shutting down guards. He's switching on to guards. He was really good against De'Aaron Fox a bunch in their 2 games against the Spurs. You know, for a guy to commit on the defensive side of the ball, right? Like, that kind of gets rid of laziness, in my opinion, when it comes to things, because it's easy to take those plays off. We see that all the time. An offensive guy. Look, the Suns are an example of this, right? Their defense is trash because all they care about is offense there, and they don't even try on that side of the ball. For him to be putting forth the effort on defense that he is, that is the most encouraging sign that I think I have seen from him during this whole stretch. But your point of, like, you got to do it the whole season is super valid when it comes to everything with him.
Yeah, I mean, it's as simple as, like, I'm rooting for him. I'm rooting for him to figure it out. Like, I think a lot of this has been like a mental thing too. I think a lot of this has been, you know, struggling with the change, the shift to the NBA. So, you know, hopefully he can put it together. I would love for it to work. I'd love for it to work in New Orleans. Let's hope for the best.
Let's go over to the Phoenix Suns here for their take on this one, because that team, oh my goodness.
Phoenix Suns fall 124-116 to a New Orleans Pelicans team that, let's just be honest, does not have the talent the Phoenix Suns have, and early in this game got up by 15-plus points in the second quarter. The Phoenix Suns then stormed back, showed some of that offensive prowess and showcased some of that offensive talent in the third quarter, got down again, made it a game, but then in the fourth quarter, the team with Devin Booker and Kevin Durant was not hitting clutch shot after clutch shot, but leave it to the Phoenix Suns to have Zion Williamson's coming out game of 2025. A triple-double in this game where just at this point the stars, or quote-unquote stars of the Pelicans, Murphy and McCollum and Williamson, were just hitting bigger shots, and the Suns, it's all the same things that we've been talking about all year. Defensive issues, lack of energy. Phoenix Suns lose again, and, you know, it feels like a lot of Suns fans are just ready for this nightmare to be done.
All right, John, let's play Count It Up here for this one, because the Suns, on a scale of 1 to 10, how cooked are they?
53.
Yeah, it's like over a 10, right?
Cooked. They are way
cooked.
Buddy, they are 3.5 games out of the 10th seed. They are not going to make the play-in tournament. The Phoenix Suns, the team assembled, the super team assembled that was hopeful to be at the top 1, 2, 3 seed, that people thought, some people even said they'd be a top 3 seed. They are 27-32. They ain't got it. It's a complete failure. Just everything blew up in their face. Whatever could go wrong did. I can't even find the words for how
it's
bad
off the
this
charts.
is.
It's off the charts.
Charts bad.
I was watching their post-game press conferences from Devin Booker, from Coach Bud. Not only are they bad, the vibes are bad around the team. Go watch that presser from Devin Booker, and you're going to come away from that being like, oh no. Like, it's about as bad as it gets. This is a second apron team, and they're 5 games under 500. Like, you cannot be in that position. They are about as cooked as it can be.
Where do you go from here? Like,
trade Kevin Durant is what it's going to be.
You're cooked. This is it. You the only thing you can do is tear it down, because it's not going to work with any of these guys.
Go check out Locked On Suns for more on them, because, oh my goodness, that's pretty much what it's going to be. So that's going to do it for this episode of Locked On NBA Game Night. We appreciate y'all so much for listening. On Fridays, I'm your co-host, Jake Madison, at NOLA Jake on Twitter, and the host of the Locked On Pelicans podcast.
And I'm John Karalis, at John_Karalis on Twitter, host of the Locked On Celtics podcast.
This has been Locked On NBA Game Night, every game, every night. And we'll be back with y'all next week.